Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, hope you're doing well. Do you remember this car? This is the worst of the 3 Range Rovers that I bought from Birmingham auctions, or from British car auctions, different Birmingham sites. This is the one that we picked up from Walsall, and actually I should say not all from Birmingham, it's from Walsall, which is different from Birmingham apparently. It's not, but people were getting upset about that, so apologies. It came from Walsall, not Birmingham, nowhere near it, nothing like it. Either way, this is the one that was absolutely filthy inside, was pretty rough on the outside as well, but most importantly it's the one that had restricted performance and problems with the stability, and is a bit beyond our capabilities really. Good news is that it was cheap. It was only 80,000 miles. I really like the colour. I half fancied this for myself, but yeah, I've had to spend some money on getting it fixed. It's actually been 2 months since we put that video out. I looked just before I came out here. But we are finally all sorted. All these problems are squared away and it's ready for sale. But how much has it cost me? Was it worth doing? Was it worth buying? Or is this going to stop me from buying any more Range Rover Sports? I think we'll hop in the car, we'll go for a little drive, and then we'll pull over somewhere and we'll talk about how much I've spent. Right, so those of you who haven't seen the previous video where I bought the 3 Range Rovers, then, I mean, I highly recommend it. I'm a little biased, but it'd be worth watching to kind of see that the issues that I had, because this is the car that I drove back. And as I say, it went into limp mode, restricted performance mode, while I was trying to get back, and it seemed to be when you were just accelerating a bit heavy. On top of that, once we got it back and I'd kind of actually driven it a bit more and kind of got used to it, realised that it was hissing under boost. So, I mean, the obvious answer to that would have been that it had a boost leak, but we couldn't really pin it down. We Googled it, as you do, and thought it was probably the crossover pipe, because this is a TDV6. There is a crossover pipe between the 2 banks of the engine. They tend to rot out, and it's a real pig of a job. Supposedly it's a body off job, but I could be wrong, and you know, there might be a simpler way of doing it, but it's certainly not a fun job, I don't think. But I did take it to our local 4x4 specialist, and they thought that it was actually something else. They thought it was maybe something to do with an EGR pipe, and you know, they would have to book us in to do it. They kind of sent us away saying we could do it, but I'd rather let the professionals do it, because these things can be a pain. And it was parked up for probably 5 or 6 weeks while we waited for them to have time to do it. And when they did get around to doing it, turns out it was the crossover pipe. It was really tricky to narrow down though. We had our endoscope down there, everyone was kind of reaching down there, getting cut to bits, trying to figure out where this air was coming from. And turns out it was that crossover pipe that we thought it might have been in the beginning. On top of that, it also had problems with the stability control. This has airbags on it, and it also has a hydraulic kind of balancing system that keeps it as level and stable and non-rolling as it can do for something of this size and weight. And they have an active anti-roll bar on the back, at least. They might have it on the front as well. I don't know, because the front one seemed to be okay. But basically we had a little leak of hydraulic fluid on those anti-roll bar things at the back, and they needed replacing as well so that it could anti-roll properly. So that has been done as well. Of course, we have valeted it. It's way better inside in here now. This one had like the most disgusting stop-start button. All the switches and everything were sticky. Certain cars, certain textures just get horrible after time and use. So BMW, E90, E92, etc., that era of car, their handles have got like a kind of like a rubberized grippy texture on them, which is great when it's new, but it just turns into some kind of sticky gunk. And it seemed that these buttons, they've also got a bit of a rubberized texture, so it was just gunky, and it was the hardest thing to clean off. I went out and cleaned it myself because I just wanted to get it done. It's disgusting. No one wants to be in here. And actually, that reminds me, all the volume control buttons and everything around the steering wheel, they were like it as well. And the only thing that I could really find to remove it was using gel sol. That's what we use, but it's basically like tar and glue remover. It's like a solvent to get it off. And it surprisingly didn't take any of the white markings or anything off of this rubbery, erasery style texture, but it did clean it up. But I mean, just general degreasers, general cleaning products, just was not touching it. So yeah, strange. Whatever it's made of really requires something pretty strong to get it cleaned off. One other thing that was an issue with this, on top of it just being filthy, on top of the restricted performance, and on top of the suspension warning, one other thing we had I noticed, wasn't really an issue, but we wanted to sort it out, was there was a bit of staining around some of the stitching on these doors. I don't know what it's come from, whether these doors have been allowed to get wet at some point, or they've used the wrong cleaning product. I don't know. We managed to give it a really good degrease, clean them up, and they do look 10 times better, but you can still just about see that there is some staining there. So I think what we're going to do is potentially speak to Dom at DB Details, because he's probably got some kind of leather conditioner, colorer, that we can put on here and just make that look a load better. Because otherwise, it actually is really, really nice in here. I can't believe how well it's cleaned up. I felt a bit like, you know, I needed a seriously good shower and to put all my clothes directly in the wash after having driven this back from Birmingham, Walsall. It wasn't nice in here at all, but it's really, really nice now, actually. And it's a really nice spec. If you haven't seen or don't remember, this is an autobiography, I believe. So we've got the nice Meridian sounds, we've got that Alcantara headlining, we've got panoramic roof with the opening sunroof as well. We've got heated and cooled seats in the front here. We've got radar cruise control. My DJI has fallen over Toby. There is one thing I think we still need to do on this car, and I'm going to let it be a lesson to myself that if you are booking a car in at another garage, and it's going to be a little while before they look at it, you really ought to write those notes down of exactly what you want doing, because I was quite happy for this to go to Causeway 4x4, who are excellent, and just have them do everything. But in that 6 weeks while it was sat at the farm waiting to go and get sorted, it would seem both they and I forgot the fact that it had some kind of like knocking on the front as well. It's fairly minor, but it's still annoying, and obviously we want to get it sorted. I think probably we'll end up putting front lower arms on there. So while I had worked out my prices and I was going to pull over somewhere and give you that, until I actually got out in this and was driving it again, I just completely forgot that it needed that done. Lower arms aside though, I think everything else is pretty much up to date on this. We will probably do a service on this as well, because you may remember that when I bought it, we didn't have any service history with this, but I think we have found some. So while we've got a bit of the early history, we don't have much for recently, so we will probably put a service on this as well. Right, so we've driven the car and we know that the faults that we are experiencing have now been sorted by taking it to the garage, but it's always good to do a health check on your car, and sometimes that can involve some really expensive diagnostics. But I've got a really great offer for you from our friends at TopDon. This is their TOPSCAN Bluetooth Diagnostic OBD2 scanner, and this has an absolute stack of features on it, and it's only £45. Stick to the end of this advert and I'll tell you how you can get it even cheaper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this into our OBD2 port, and then we're going to read our codes and see if there's anything else in this car beyond what we had done with the crossover pipe. So plug that in, turn the ignition on, and we're going to open our Top Guru app. If we go into diagnostics, I have already downloaded the Land Rover software. Don't worry, it doesn't cost you to download any of the manufacturers, so you can just go through and pick ones that might be relevant to you. So we're going to just do an auto scan on this, but before we do, let's have a look at hot functions. I can tell you what you can do in there. So oil reset, throttle adaptation, EPB reset, I don't even know what that is, BMS reset, SAS reset, DPF regeneration, and ABS bleeding. You can pay an absolute fortune to get certain jobs done in your car that is almost impossible to do DIY, like bleeding the brakes on these Range Rovers because it needs to be done via the ABS pump using the system. You can do that on here. DPF regeneration, if it's telling you it's blocked and you want to try and do a forced regen, you can do that with this as well, which normally you have to do a piece of diagnostics equipment that's going to cost you hundreds, but not with a TOPSCAN. Right, so it's completed our scan and it has found 4 faults by the looks of it. We've got 1 in the driver's seat module, 2 in the front control / display interface module, and 1 in the image processing module. So let's have a quick look at the driver's seat module. Right, it's asking me how many ways does my seat adjust. So, I'm gonna say it's got to be at least 10. Read the DTC's Control module improper shutdown. That's a permanent code. Don't know what that means, but we don't have any faults on the car, but obviously there's something it's not happy with there. So maybe there's a couple of little electrical gremlins we need to look at in here. As you can see, there's an absolute ton of things it checks specific to this car. If you're trying to chase down a specific problem, you can go to control units and you can go through and pick whichever ones it is you think you need to. Driver's seat module, that's the one that we've got problems with. And the list goes on and on, down to the telematic control unit module. Basically, this is a very powerful bit of kit for just £45. I have got 2 discount codes for you down in the description, depending on the date. Check the dates, they'll be marked on the description. You could get this TOPSCAN for as little as £36, or worst case scenario, up until the end of August, you can get it for just under £40. And for that is a seriously great bit of diagnostics equipment for that price. I highly recommend you get one while you can, before the end of the month at least, because they won't be this cheap again. Right, so I've done the figures and I know exactly how much this car owes me now, or will owe me once we've done those final little bits, and how much we can realistically get for it and whether it's actually been a good deal or not. So place your bets now. Let's remind ourselves. So I bid £10,800 for this at auction. It was an absolute bargain. We had £446.96 of fees on top of that, which includes the essential check as well for what it was worth, which is practically, let's say, I think it was £12.96 for that report, so it is worth £12.96 less than that. Obviously, we need to do the lower arms and a service. There are 2 different types of lower arms. There's front ones and bottom. There, you know, they're talking to me and it's like they were talking Chinese to me. I didn't know what they're saying. So I've kind of gone for the average in between. For a pair of arms, it's going to be no more than £150 anyway. That's worst case scenario. One set was £73 per arm. One set was like £35 per arm. So let's say worst case scenario, 150 quid. The service parts, including the kind of special C1, I think it was oil that it needed, we would have to order 7 litres, because it comes in 5 litre drums and 2 litre thing. Normally we do it from a 200 litre drum, but this is, sounds like special stuff. And it takes 6.66 litres of oil. 666. You know what that means, don't you? I'm going to put down labour for that, you know, a few hours, whatever, 100 quid for us in-house here. We did have Mike from NW Dents. He came and took some dents out of it for us as well, so that was 45 quid. Up to that point, before we take it to Causeway 4x4, the specialist 4x4 people, it owed me £11,640.26, which still sounds very, very good value. So really, it comes down to how much this bill was, which was 12 hours of labour, £379.42 worth of active roll bar rear pipes, I should say. Active roll bar rear pipes, anti-roll bar rear pipes. Exhaust gasket times 2, one was £14.48, there was 2 at £10.18, other miscellaneous gaskets, there's a lot of gaskets. £13.39, £14.45, and the crossover pipe was £342.24. So our grand total came to £1,805.64, which gives us a grand stand-in value on this car of £13,445.90. And we've currently got this car advertised and getting a lot of attention at £17,995. Which, if it sells for that, which I'm fairly confident it will, especially as we've had it parked on the front of the forecourt and people are stopping to come and look at it because it's a really nice colour, would give me a gross profit of £4,549.10, which would be lovely. And then add on top of that the fact that we bought 2 other Range Rover Sports on that day, one being the blue one that was not an autobiography. We sold that with a very similar margin, if not better, and the grey one, which was the hybrid that had the brakes issue, if you remember. So we put a new caliper and things on that, but even including doing the work on that, I think a new battery as well we've now done. That sold as well in this 2-month time frame. So in 2 months since having bought those, we've sold all 3 cars and we've done very well out of it. I haven't been bitten yet on these Range Rover Sports. for me, as far as the Land Rovers go, they seem to be the better ones to have. I shouldn't be giving away my trade secrets like this, but I'm having much more problems with Discovery Sports and Evokes. So I'm going off of those. So in the grand scheme of things, it's actually a great result. You are going to get some occasionally that aren't as straightforward as the other ones, but it took us a couple of months. It had to sit around waiting. The prices could have plummeted in that time, and I think we have dropped them. I can't remember exactly what we priced this at previously, but it might have even been as much as 19,000 originally. So we might have, if it was ready to go, we would have done obviously about £3,000 better off again, which would have been, you know, obscene profits. But it hasn't panned out too bad at all. So fear not, there'll be plenty more Range Rover content. In fact, we currently have 4 Range Rover Sports in stock that aren't sold, and we've got more that are in progress. And I'm tempted to buy more all the time because I do feel like a good thing. It's a good trend for us at the moment. It might not last forever, but at the moment it's going okay. It probably is only a matter of time until my fingers get burned though, so make sure you're subscribed to see that when the warranty claims start rolling in. That is it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, make sure you give it a thumbs up. It would really help me out. Don't forget to subscribe. We're doing giveaways all the time. By the time this video comes out, you have still just about got time to hop into my YouTube community, slide into the comments, drop the word tag, and you'll be entered into our 75,000 subscriber giveaway, where I'm giving away a £2,000 Taiko watch. As soon as we've given that away, I'm going to announce what the next giveaway is going to be. We're going to try and have something running all the time, so you've got to be in it to win it. Make sure you're subscribed. That is it for this time. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on my next financial mistake or win. Time will tell.